So first of all, I would like to introduce Peter Vassdorp of the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate. Peter, I would be very honored if you would explain a little bit more why you support Ideas from Europe and why the role of a broker for impact is so important.
Yeah, on the basic contact.
Yeah.
I would like to do so, Tess. Of course, I'm very happy to be here because I'm very proud of Ideas from Europe. We started it a few years ago together with the European Commission. I'm not only Director for Entrepreneurship Policy in the Netherlands, I'm also the EU SME Envoy for the Netherlands. And as an EU SME Envoy, I regularly speak with my colleagues in all member states. And a few years ago, we started the program Ideas from Europe. It all started out as giving entrepreneurs a stage, setting them in the spotlight, showing what solutions entrepreneurs can bring to societal challenges. And it evolved from there. It evolved from there in an impact-driven program. And that's the key, impact, because entrepreneurs, they put things in motion, they combine their knowledge, their entrepreneurial drive, together with stakeholders, investors, knowledge institutes, and they change things. They have impact. And that's what it's all about, impact. You have things changed, in this case, solutions for societal challenges.
Thank you very much. Based on that fact, I would like to say that we all see indeed that there are great inventions here, not just on the CES Unveiled, but all around the globe. But what we also see is that they have a lot of dependencies to go to market with regards to, for example, their digital dependency. And while this is happening, at the same time, we have a growing demand globally for all these innovative improvements. But then it becomes quite difficult, right? Because it clearly requires a lot of transformation, serious transformation. Though, what is there first? Chicken or egg? Egg or chicken? Where do we start off? And what we believe is very important at Ideas from Europe, in line with the value tracking methodology we used, is first look for the eco-network, and then the new ecosystem will arrive. So that's very important. And this is why we believe that people are the ones that drive transformation for impact. Looking at these eco-networks, let's see how we start this off and why with these eco-networks we're looking for enablers to realize market breakthroughs that benefit all stakeholders involved. Not just the entrepreneurs, but even policymakers, end users, everyone from tech product to implementation. Let's see how that works. So for example, Bart, we would like to hear, first of all, because you're one of the entrepreneurs who held a very important solution where I believe that we would all be very happy if this would be implemented. Can you first of all explain a little bit about what your solution to solution is for the health innovation world?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bart Geerts. I'm the CEO of Health Plus AI. Name kind of says it all, but what we do, we focus on surgery care. So about 10% of the Western population has surgery at least once a year. And what we also see is that 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of those people actually run into an infection. So 300 million people around the globe have surgery, and about 60 to 80 million of them actually run into an infection. And what we do, this is just an example of the problems people run into, we reuse data from the hospital and provide predictions to the team. By getting the medical team to focus on the right patient at a much earlier stage, we think we can prevent or at least reduce the impact of these surgical complications. And in terms of impact, what does it do? Hopefully, it helps people to move through the hospital quicker and therefore provide access to care for a much greater group. Because now 150 million people at least do not even have surgery and need it. So.
And this is quite interesting, looking at what type of enabler are we then looking for. Because just like you, this morning we heard is called Johan Pieter Verwij, who's from Gnostics, and he explained as well when Prince Constantine asked him, so what is your biggest hurdle? Why didn't you make your deadline to go to market? First thing he said is because of the regulations, because we need to test. It requires time, money, and effort. And navigating this complexity of regulations is one of the things that is also experienced by you, correct, Bart?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. I'm glad he didn't say no. But then again, so this is why we said, together with the Ministry of Economic Affairs, in relation to the European Commission, what can we do about this? And what we did is we pulled together all the stakeholders that are involved in such eco-network. So, for example, the entrepreneur, but as you mentioned as well, Bart, it's also about the investor, because obviously it's a risk to them if entrepreneurs cannot go to market rather sooner than later. Then obviously for policymakers, do they really have a transparency on what the impact of the regulations are? That's kind of tough. So the complexity is there, but it's also non-transparent. And this is why we were looking for what is the next market breakthrough. You said if I could navigate the regulations landscape, regulatory landscape, it would be easier. If I would be able to check it directly to my type of solution, and instead of reading all these regulatory piles of pages, why not just say, I'm this, doing that, wanting that, and then you get 4.3 is relevant for you, 7.8 is relevant for you. And if not just Bart, but all the others are also looking into this, all the other entrepreneurs do that, then for the policymaker on the other side, it might be much more effective. And then everybody said, well, that would be great, that would be brilliant, but how do we get there? And that's where we saw that within financial services, these guys already have such a solution. Why not take, from the financial services point of view, that person to collaborate with the Eco Network in health innovation? Alex, be my guest.
The world is changing rapidly. Technology like big data, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and machine learning bring endless possibilities and redefine business. Our business. Technology helps us to deal with ever-changing rules and regulations, increasing complexity and stricter oversight. Technology like Ruler. Trained algorithms performing tasks within the compliance cycle, reducing error rates and saving you valuable time. We created a digital compliance platform fueled by data and driven by people. A major step into the future of compliance, where information is real-time, complete, valid and safe. Ruler is versatile, open to other systems and services, working together to optimize your compliance cycle. Ruler is where we connect, interact, learn, and share. Ruler is everywhere and for everyone. With Ruler, you are simply in control.
Thank you, Tess. Well, my name is Alex Poole. I'm one of the founders of Ruler. What Tess already said was we developed a tool to track and trace regulations, but we did that for the financial services industry. And what we did was building a software solution where all the legislation is in there. And if you tell us who you are and what you do, we bring you the legislation that is applicable to you. So for the financial services industry, that means that if you are a bank, you tell us you're a bank, we provide you with the legislation that is applicable to you as a bank. Not the insurance legislation, not other legislation. And we built that, we were quite successful in that, and we were looking for another area where we could have impact. and that is also highly regulated. And then we came across to Tess with ideas from Europe, and one of the things is the medical device regulations and other regulations as well. GDPR, which is also applicable for the financial services industry, as you know, which is already in our system. And we think that having the MDR and other medical regulations in Ruler, and make sure that if you tell us what you do, what your device does, we tell you what the regulation is, that would be very impactful for the industry. And in addition to that, regulation is changing quite rapidly, becoming more and more complex. Telling you what is changing on a daily basis, because there's published a lot in the market, telling you on a daily basis what is published, what is relevant to you, helps you in being compliant, helps you in addressing that in your device. But what we also do is keep track of what is coming up in the next 3 to 4 years, so that you won't be surprised of any changes that is coming up. You can find that on websites from the EU, but we bring that to you, to what is applicable to you in your situation. And we think that we can do that for the healthcare industry as well.
So what we like about this is, with this value tracking methodology, we first look at where is the impact that we want to realize, for example, in the domain of personalized health. Then we see that there are many interesting technologies, like Bart just explained, delivering on that. And then we based on the stakeholder feedback loop, we check, but is it just Bart who experiences this, or are there many out there? And that way we validate what is the impact, what are the constraints and the conditions under which we can go to market, and then we validate what would be the next opportunity to realize such a thing. And the nice part of this is, if we understand how to do that, for example, for medical device regulations, then what Bart also mentioned is, look at what it means to, for example, medicine. There's another whole regulation, bunch out there. You could do the same thing. So actually, we understand what the impact is for all of us with regards to economic, societal value, business opportunity, if we realize our personalized health. Then we zoom into where can we crack that little bit to go to market, make it easier, and pave the road for all these entrepreneurs out there, and these policymakers, and these investors. So in that sense, we've seen that there's more to come, and that there's a lot of opportunity out there where we can get these eco-networks to create the next ecosystem. And this was just one of the examples, and I very much would like to say personally to you as well, Bart, that it was so cool to see that Bart said, I said, you're an entrepreneur. I know one thing for sure, by the way, policymakers too, they're extremely busy, right? But then Bart said, okay, but this to me is something from a professional perspective I would like to support this, but also from a personal perspective. Because it's not just about only our solution, it's about the fact that we realize personalized health. And that is a big compliment to you as well. And I think what is so great with regards to accelerating impact, it's all about the people, professional and personal motivation to collaborate. And this is exactly why the role of a broker is so cool. And I so much want to dive into the next thing, because I think there's far more. By the way, if you're interested, tomorrow there will be a policymaker session. And this is, again, something which has to do with the brokerage. Obviously, the output of what's happening here today, like, for example, meeting with another medical device entrepreneur, and Peter will be there tomorrow as well. And what we learn from the sessions tomorrow, we will take to the SME Envoy Network in November in Europe to communicate to the other member states. And what the nicest thing about this is, if you started all these validations, you start to get to know people. I can now ask Bart, who else do I need in this eco network? So Bart is telling me, hey, call this in, you need an investor. By the way, I know one. Oh, Tess, by the way, you need the policymaker. By the way, I know one. So it's quite easy to understand what is the expertise we need, what is the experience we need, what are the skills we need, and the access to resources. As soon as we build that up, and we now go to the SME Envoys, it's almost like giving out vacancies to work together to accelerate impact. And this is why, one way or the other, it seems like a natural flow. Oh, hey, hello.
Hi. Hello from Brussels, yes.
Okay, this is exactly why it's so cool and how it works. This is one of the people from the SME Envoys network. She's a total, you're not a total policymaker, but you have all the knowledge about policymaking at least. And you are also working with the European entrepreneurial regions. And I think that's so cool too, because it's not just about a global network, looking down at maybe we should do this or this. No, it's really hands-on, right? Because you are preparing the next hackathon. So explain a little bit more, why do you think this is important? And what we're also doing with the value tracks, it's about creating a common thread. It's not just about a one-off event, it's about all being responsible to be there at the right time, in the right place, with the right people.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Laura, I'm very bad, but I'm going to warn you, this is almost like speed dating. So you can have 30 seconds.
I know, it's going to be quick. I just want to thank you for allowing me to also intervene, and I'm very happy to join you in this section and actually to support the process of accelerating the definition of how this solution can be more impactful. And we are going to do this as a next step also at the policy hackathon that we are organizing at the EU SME Assembly. So this is going to happen in the context of also this project that we are managing together with European entrepreneurial regions. It's funded by the European Commission as well, and the European Innovation Council and SMEs Agency. And what we're doing is to basically a similar thing, accelerate, co-create solutions to accelerate the scaling up of entrepreneurial ecosystems. And in one area is the innovative health medtech sector. So what we're going to do is that we are going to have a workshop in a creative format to develop solutions for how to remove barriers from scaling up in the medtech area. And this will happen at the SME Assembly, where we're inviting you especially because, as Tess said, we need the people to be there that are really impacted also by these problems from scaling up. And so we're inviting you all to participate in November to discuss how to make this regulatory compass happen, to brainstorm ideas together, and also how this can perhaps be also transformed later on in a learning structure for resilience and strategic independence. So there's lots going on at the SME Assembly. We're calling on you to join us. It's going to also happen in Slovenia, in Portorož. You can see if you want to go to the seaside, please let us know. Of course, it's also going to be available online. As I said, accelerating the impact in this field can also happen if you join forces with us in Portorož, in Slovenia, at the Policy Hackathon at the SME Assembly. So if you want to have more information on how to participate, please write to Tess and, of course, me as well. And we're more than happy to welcome you there.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. And the good part is, if you can't be in Portorož, then the next month it will be in Finland, right?
Exactly. In Finland, we are organizing an event together with the Helsinki Regional Council. And that's where we're celebrating also the EER regions and entrepreneurs. And of course, with you, Tess, I think we can discuss more later on how to involve the community further on this. It's a celebration event for entrepreneurship at the Slash, together with the Slash as a side event of the Slash big entrepreneurial event.
Laura, thank you so much for enforcing the Value Track Network for personalized health. And I'm looking forward to look at other opportunities together with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the good part, it's on my birthday actually, so we're gonna have a nice party there too. Then again, and by the way, Bart, if there's anything that you hear with regards to MedTech Opportunities Hubs, I'm more than for sure that Laura wants to help you out there too. So what is next? One of the things that we're doing with these value tracking is like, we don't decide what the next topic is gonna be. We use, for example, events like CES, and we interview people. What do you think is most important? Again, economic value, societal value, also with regards to business opportunities, because obviously for each entrepreneur, it's really great if there's economic growth based on your solution, but you'd rather also, make sure that a business opportunity for you can be realized. Then again, we do another check, which is more from a business development perspective. So one is the market development and one is the business development perspective. Is it feasible technically? Is there just one invention, or are there many inventions? So could this be expected to be the next gen for health, for example? And the other one is it scalable? So it's nice if it would be good for a Dutch person, but let's look at the world. Is there a global demand for this solution? If the answer is yes, then why isn't it there yet? One of these things where we really saw what was needed with regards to innovation, things we all wanted, was obviously triggered by COVID. What was triggered by COVID? The fact that we were stuck. There was no movement from people from A to B in public crowded places. It didn't feel safe, it didn't feel secure, and it wasn't seamless at all. And this is why it's so important that we look at these examples of what is happening out there in the world and feed it back to the potential innovation that can take place, and then again broaden the view. So look at what is happening in practice and take it to a broader view and back again. It's all about continuously using this feedback loop to reflect what is happening in the market, where it's stuck in the market, and what is possible in the market. In this sense, I would like to give the word to actually first you a little bit, because you've been at CES before, and at this point in time you have one solution which is also on the slides, I believe, where it explains a little bit more. And funny enough, you mentioned the solution itself, also people flows. So there's a value track people flows and there's a solution, technical solution people flows. Theo, can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm Theo Roers, I'm CEO of People Flows, and another company which also work together. We created People Flows, I think the idea was October last year, and we created it in December, definitely. The company started in April, and the idea was, how can we get people more freedom during COVID? Because we saw the first things with the Corona checker and that it takes so long to check everything. And we thought this can be faster, can be safer, because it is not safe if you show your Corona, your QR code, and someone else can see your name, your birthday, even your social security number. So we make a solution with face recognition, and in 3 seconds we know if it is safe that you go through. And this is the first of a couple of products which we want to make safer. Then people can decide by themselves what they do, what is from them, what belongs to them. And a face belongs to you, but also other things belongs to you, what we want to make digital in the coming years.
What I think is so interesting, because I asked you, so it's partly based on biometrics, but there's far more to it. It's beyond that. And I said, but then there's so many other companies who provide a similar solution, right? Focused on face recognition. And you said, no way. Because what is the most important thing of your solution?
Yeah, in our solution, everything runs in the app. So there's one app and there it runs in. We are not checking on a server if there's a picture or vectors of you. We only have a selection of factors, and these factors have a number, and that's what we check.
Thank you.
That means that it is very, very fast, and it runs completely on your own computer or on an entrance computer.
And this is why I'm very anxious to find out what you're going to do at CES in Las Vegas, because I believe there's a lot of potential. And like we said, we're looking for the next eco network. So I hope we can connect people to you and make sure that they can accelerate your go-to-market. But why is people flows? Because this is one technical solution. Obviously, people flows, there are many technical solutions, right? And why is this so important from an economic standpoint and also from a societal standpoint?
Well, thank you, Tess. And Tess, this is really exciting for me to be here, and I'm humbled to be the value track lead for People Flows. So my name is Harm. I'm the founder of iLabs Technologies and also the Chief Strategy Officer of Okudu. It's one of those digital identity specialists in the Middle East and like DigiID in the Netherlands. So I've been building trust for the last 25 years on the internet. So that's for people, organizations, and things. And it takes a long time to build trust on the internet. But I truly believe, and I'm convinced after I've been seeing with my own eyes this week, with the support of an innovation lab in Rotterdam Airport, RIA, with Miranda. If I see with UL on setting a standard for people flows, for making sure that at least it's privacy first. We talked about control of data. Mm-hmm. We talked about ruler. This is about the free movement of people. I have some challenges on that today, but I truly believe we have that right of movement, of meet people that we love and care about, that we can do business everywhere we see the business opportunity. And for that, standards are needed, technology is needed, regulations needed.
So as I hear correctly, so indeed I have to introduce you as the value track lead of People Flows, because what is so important is I'm not the expert on things, but if you get the expert to work with the methodology, it becomes more systematic, right?
Absolutely.
And you can leverage your network, your knowledge, the connections, events that are happening, because we're plugging into many events. Not just government-supported events, but also like the regional events, or with universities, or anywhere at that point in time an eco-network is needed, or there's a new question, then we can just use it better. And this is, for example, from a regional standpoint, you have a very clear view on how innovation works and why there's a good match with regards to overall a broker for impact, value tracking, and what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's building the chain. My name is Miranda Jansen. I'm the director of the foundation Rotterdam The Hague Innovation Airport, and it's an innovation platform of enterprises like the airports, the Royal Schiphol Group, airliners, Transavia, but also enterprises working on systems and components in the aviation industry like Fokker and Airborne, and of course the ones who are working on the renewal of aviation fuels, very important in the transition of aviation, Sky Energy, but also the aspected parties like Uniper, Vopak, the Port of Rotterdam. And we form an ecosystem with enterprises, knowledge institutions, and governmental organizations in our region, which is very densely populated and contains most of the aviation industry in the Netherlands, but also large other industry clusters. So it's a beautiful region to make an ecosystem and to build value tracks, build change, to really innovate, going with the flow, because transition in aviation is happening. There is a change in people flows made possible by digitalization. So the business opportunities are there, and you just have to go with the flow and build your value tracks working together in an ecosystem which combines the functional innovations with the development of the region. That's why we've built a lab to test and develop and innovate all systems at the airport, and also realizing airplanes who fly electric or with hybrid fuels or hydrogen.
Thank you very much. You may keep this. So what we see again is, if we're looking for then what is the call to collaborate, because that's key. If you can just click one more time, it's all about a call to collaborate. Zoom in, where is the action needed, what people are needed. And in that sense, we have a very good example which became a call to collaborate in the value track, people flows. And please, can you explain a little bit more, Arjen, about this? And indeed, with your neighbor here, we're very welcome, because you are one of the US people too. So you can see that there's a lot of trans-ocean, what is it? Activity here.
Yeah, I saw that this is also related to ideas from Europe. I can say this is ideas from Europe and beyond. My name is Arjen Geluk. I work with UL. And I also have the privilege to lead a task force in ISO that developed over the last 7 years a standard for mobile driving licenses. And it's a privilege that I can be here today on World Standards Day. And this standard for mobile driving license sounds like a one-trick pony that you can bring a driver's license to a mobile device. The last part is true, the first part is not. We did get the request from the driving license issuing authority community to work on standardization for mobile driving licenses, because when banks, actually also here in the Netherlands, in 2012, banks did a pilot in Leiden. 2,000 citizens, 100 companies, and on the market, contactless payment using a mobile phone. Then a colleague of mine who was the program manager for that, for the technical side of that, was interviewed by BNR Business News Radio. And the first question he got was, the banks promise that you can leave your wallet at home. Where do we leave our driver's license? He, of course, gave a politically correct answer that he was working on mobile payment and not on anything else. But actually, I took it to the director of RDW in the Netherlands and I said, we got this question. And at the time, we were working on putting a chip on a driving license. So we slowly came to the conclusion that might just be a step towards actually having a driving license on a chip. So after a few years, I mean, this was just a conversation, but after a few years, actually, this came up. Consumer research in the US did show that people were asked about mobile wallets and what they expect to be in a mobile wallet. And actually, the driver license was credential number 1 that was expected to be in a mobile wallet. So then actually, as an ISO group, we established a task force. And after a long silence, I volunteered to lead that task force. And here we are 7 years later. We actually did produce a standard. But along the way, we realized if we are going to build protocols, an end-to-end standard for digital credentials where you express driving privileges, that is something, it would be a waste if that is really only for that purpose. So we've been working on standardizing protocols that are not only very fit and usable for driving licenses, but actually for any mobile document, for any digital credential. And 2 weeks ago, that standard was finally published. And yesterday and the day before, there was an interoperability test event where about 10 different organizations brought 25 different implementations of this new standard, and everything was tried out with everything. And of course, if you bring prototypes, a lot of things fail. usually the majority of things fail. We did have a few test events before, and what we saw in the first test event, about 25% of transactions were successful. The second test event, 45%, and now for the first time, more than half of the transactions, and there were more than 500 transactions that were reported on, were successful. And I think for a new standard that hasn't been published for 2 weeks even, that is remarkable. And also, this includes, well, the majority of participants was from Europe, obviously with travel restrictions, but also there was participation from Asia and from North America. And that is something, interoperability and people flows is not something restricted to a continent, to a region. In Europe, there is very good work ongoing with the proposals for a European digital identity wallet, with DG Move proposing the revamp of the driving license directive, explicitly recognizing the need for a digital driver's license. But then in the US, the Real ID Modernization Act has been published. So their legislation is being made that recognizes a driving license to be an official identity document. A mobile driving license. So how cool would it be that if we would adopt that global standard not only in North America or only in Europe, but all over the world?
You promised to mention as well what the opportunity is for small businesses if this happens.
Absolutely, and that is something you could make a proprietary technology and then tell the world all use our technology. This is a standard that you can buy from the ISO web store for less than €200 and go implement it. And I think what is important that the market for wallets is not going to be a monopoly or an oligopoly of only a few. I think it's important that small businesses, startups, innovative companies can go buy the standard, implement the standard. And from that perspective, I think there is also a nice development. And next to me is David Zutton of Google. Is Google now going to take this market and then the rest of the world has nothing to do? Or is there something you enable?
Cool. Thanks, Ian, for the introduction. My name is David Zutton. I'm a software engineer working for Google on Android. And it's a big company. So Android is also a big mobile operating system. But one of the best things about Android is that a significant part of it is open source through the Android open source project, which enables me to actually, none of the things I'm going to say here is like, it's all out in the open already, including the ISO standard being out in the open. So what we've done, what we're doing in the team that I work in, it's a platform security team. We basically define the interfaces that allow any application, not just Google application, any third-party application, to access parts of the operating system that you will need to implement secure document or secure credentials in a secure way. We also work with all the mobile phone vendors to put requirements on. If they make a phone, it needs to have the secure element in it, so applications can take advantage of it. So we sit right in the nexus, and we're in a unique position to add APIs to enable things like the mobile driving license and ISO 1813 Part 5. In addition to this, because you can already implement this on Android, Android has a lot of security features, but we think that by adding very targeted, very user-friendly, and very secure interfaces, it's possible to write applications that are much more secure and much more privacy-focused than previously possible. So we got involved in the ISO committee a couple of years ago, also because there was already a couple of mobile identity applications out there, and most of them were written in a way that wasn't really privacy-friendly. It all went through a server, and it's really not what we wanted. One of the main things we think about when we add these interfaces to Android. It's not necessarily.
I'm terrible, huh? I'm terrible, and you're gonna think, you know for sure the Dutch are very direct. But
I know.
one thing, and this is exactly why we want to build these eco-networks, because if you're totally into this, if you're a subject matter expert, then this is where you need to combine and work with certain subject matter experts. And what you confirmed, and that's what I think is very important, we're looking for these calls to collaborate that are an enabler for all these type of entrepreneurs, whether large corporates, whether the smaller ones, or other experts to work together. And please, can we see a quick view of how the European Commission reacted to this from the perspective of Mr. Andrea Servida?
Certainly standards is key not only for interoperability and for convenience in terms of seamless user experience across platform, across domain, across different jurisdiction, but it's certainly also the key to make things to happen on a scale that will be impacting society in the right way. In this respect, certainly standards is just one of the components. You might have seen that the Commission in early June has launched an initiative which is the revision of the others regulation, where the key element pillar there is indeed a European digital identity wallet, but associated to that is indeed the process that was launched by a Commission recommendation to engage member states and stakeholders in defining what is going to be the ecosystem that will make the European digital identity wallet to be linked not only to legal identity, verifiable identity, but also to support the citizen who would benefit, and not only the citizen, but also business, to use those, I would say, identities to share credentials.
So, in other words, the call to collaborate within the value track of people flows is focused on enabling verifiable credentials, putting, based on the mobile driver's license, the citizen in the driver's seat. And this is very important. And what I really liked from you as well, David, was that you said, if there's an opportunity to collaborate with European parties from your standpoint, you said, if I can add value and you are planning for the Agenda 2022, then let me know, and if there's anything that I can add or is interesting, vice versa, then we might continue to collaborate. And I'm sure that you guys already have been planning your next step. And this way, again, it's about the common thread. How do you leverage from what you've learned at one point in time with certain stakeholders and deliver it to the next point? And from that perspective, I think that that's one of the most important roles as well. Foucault, if I may invite you to come over. And so we're going to just move to the other side. We hebben hier nog een mic. Ja. Ja. Oh. And this is me, I wasn't sure, but apparently there's one more person who's also overarching, or looking from an overarching perspective to what is going on with regards to people flows. And I would like to ask her the following question. Hello, Nadine. Please, can you... We just said this is all about speed dating, so people understand who's all involved in this network, who can they reach out to set up the next set of actions. And one of the things that's great that you're involved because you have a global perspective. Please explain to us who you are, and indeed make it, unfortunately, speed dating, because we only have a few minutes left.
I love it. So, hi everybody. I'm Nadine Alame. I'm the CEO of the Open Geospatial Consortium. coming to you from Washington, D.C. I wish I was with you. So I was taking notes as everybody was talking about people flow and identity protection and standards and interoperability. And my piece of the ecosystem is the location part. You can tell a lot about people from where they are, where they came from, and where they're going. And that's what we do in the consortium. So we develop the standards for capturing the where, and where is everywhere, right? And it's, contact tracing bubbled up the issue of ethics and locations. I want to throw out there as part of the ecosystem, the Locust Charter, which is the responsible use of location information as we're talking about, identity protection and people flow. So that's my speed dating pitch. Works?
Thank you very much. And can I then ask you a blunt question? Would it be possible that if we want to set next steps, defining the agenda for 2022, can we also link with your network and vice versa to exchange all the good practices that are coming from the value track people flows, or that you think are important for the value track people flows? So I'm actually inviting myself, another bad Dutch habit, but what is your answer to that?
For me, it's a big yes. We have 550 global members, and many of them you recognize, from the Googles and the Microsofts all the way to the startups and the entrepreneurs and government and academia in between. So yes.
Thank you very, very much. Looking forward. And I'm not quite sure if Paul Iske is already there, or he is? No, he's not there. I'm here from the back, so he's not there yet. Or he was there, but I forgot that he was there. But if we look at all these opportunities, and like we're sitting here right now, the Netherlands are small, but in the end, it's a big common idea that we all have with regards to innovation. Can you explain a little bit more the way you look at this and the opportunity to realize true impact for all of us?
Yes, of course. I know that innovation is made by people and by talent and bringing talent together, and also bringing different angles together. And having these different angles at the table requires some work. Work from all of us that are involved in innovation policies, but it also requires that you actively look for partners in crime, I would say, to bring them together and have all these angles at the table that can drive regulatory frameworks from a government perspective, that can drive from a technical perspective, as the Google expert also explained to us. You need this technical analysis, but it's also understanding that if you want to make impact with innovation, you need also to commercialize, and you need to validate, and you need to bring it into the homes, into the businesses, and that also implies that you have to have a whole team working on it together, and having also short loops to work on acute problems. And this is what we try to do in these type of ecosystems. Create small ecosystems that work together, that bring solutions. And that's what is actually working here, right, and where we got the examples from people flows and personal health. These are excellent examples of creating these type of ecosystems that bring us forward.
Thank you so much. I'm actually getting older, so I just told you it's my birthday on the 16th. Well, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I do need glasses. Indeed, you mentioned that we need these smaller ecosystems. From a value tracking methodology, we're also looking at indeed zoom in, where is the next enabler that we can collaborate on, and how can we bring it to life and copy paste it. This is something that another person focused on combinatoric innovation, and unfortunately he's abroad, so he was supposed to dial in, but he's in a meeting now again. He said from that perspective, looking at it, he suggested to set up 2 more meetings that are open to everyone who wants to be involved in accelerating impact, because it's an inclusive network hosted by Ideas from Europe, supported by the Ministry of Economic Affairs. And what we believe is most important is that we're open to motivated, willing people who are professionally and personally involved to make this world a little bit, actually a lot better. So from that perspective, we welcome you on the 7th of December and the 13th of December to give more input for the agenda for 2022, the agenda of Ideas from Europe in relation to all other networks out there that we can leverage to all succeed. Thank you so much for your attention, and see you on the 7th.